Welcome back, Fragrance Fiend here today with one of my all-time favorites. It's Creed Viking, released in 2017. It's a citrus, woody, spicy, aromatic fragrance, which has been quite a divisive release from the company, but let's talk a bit about it. So my batch code is M9621R01, manufactured in late 2021. So what do Creed have to say about it? Well, it was inspired by the incredibly crafted longships, a centerpiece of the Viking Age and one of the greatest design feats of the 9th century, a symbol of voyage and undeniable perseverance. Longships were carefully designed for the skilled seamen who embodied unbridled determination to conquer. And that this is a fiery men's fragrance that bottles the fearless spirit of boundless exploration for the modern man who goes against the grain. So this was actually Creed's first flagship fragrance since 2010's Aventus, even though Royal Oud came out in 2011 and Royal Mayfair came out in 2015. Since then, all we've had from the brand is its flanker, Viking Cologne. So even though it's 7 years since Aventus came out, people were kind of expecting a follow-up from that, and Creed took a complete left turn. They went for something a lot more complex and distinct and stayed away from what the mainstream wanted. And I think that was an incredible move for the brand, not to just appeal to the masses, but appeal to those people who really like something different. I remember the first time I smelt it and I hated it. My nose was not developed enough at the time and I didn't really see past that initial opening, which I can see as a bit of a turn-off for someone just getting into fragrances, as it is definitely one of their most polarizing scents to date. It's not as easy as Virgin Island Water or Milsim Imperial or even Aventus. It really sits in a category of its own. Eventually, over the course of a few weeks or maybe it was months, I'd be going back to the store to smell it again along with all the other fragrances just to see how it developed on my nose. And then over time I fell in love with it, and it's probably in my top 4 Creed fragrances. So let's jump into the note breakdown. In the top you have bergamot, lemon, orange, peppermint, pink pepper and absinthe, while in the heart you have allspice, clove, jasmine, lavender, orris butter and rose, and lastly a base of cedarwood, tonka bean, vetiver and white musk. In the opening you're met with a fresh gust of peppermint which really takes you by surprise, and then you get a sharpness from the pink pepper which really gives it its spice, while the lemon, orange, bergamot give it a bit of a juicy citrus burst. After that really bright sharp opening which gives you the same sensation of smelling eucalyptus, it begins to warm up as the lavender and cloves take over, while the rose is extremely mild and hard to pick up, but it's definitely there, and the jasmine is pretty much non-existent, which I consider a good thing. Then after an hour the woods kick in, giving it a much more heavier, thicker texture. The cedarwood gives it a bit more of a creaminess, while the vetiver gives it a bit more of an earthiness. And lastly, you've got the tonka, which gives it a tiny bit more of a sweeter element. After doing a bit of research, I found that 80% of Viking is actually sourced from raw natural ingredients, and you can definitely smell it. Viking is not for the weak of heart, and it's as masculine as it gets. It's a bit of a barbershop type of fragrance as well with that lavender. I think I get away with wearing it, but it's definitely catered to someone probably more so in their 30s, 40s plus. To me, the type of person who would wear this fragrance varies on their character. It can be your signature scent wearable every day, but I also see it as a bit more of a classy, formal, dressed up, eventful type of scent. It really does mix classic elements of perfumery with modern ones really well. Maybe not yet, but one day I think people will look back and consider this a bit of a modern classic. It combines so many different elements that it almost gives it a bit of an addictive allure to it. Even though I can smell it from arm's length, sometimes I just want to get even closer and smell it right off my wrist. All that being said, it's definitely not a scent for everyone, and as I mentioned earlier, it took me months to grow on it. But don't give up hope. If you're able to access a sample and spray it maybe once every few weeks and just keep on coming back to it and seeing if you like it or not, you may like it as much as me. It is a fragrance for a very specific wearer. It's not for everyone. It's not supposed to be mass appealing, which is kind of the point of niche perfumery as well. I think people might actually like Viking Cologne more as it's a more fresh, citrusy take on the original. It strips away that heaviness and makes it a little more accessible to a larger crowd, I guess. It also shares the same price tag as Royal Oud, but also the same performance and quite a complex note breakdown. And it comes in at 539 Australian dollars, which equates to about 361 USD, but if you bought it from the US, that will cost you $495, which would equate to 738 Australian dollars. Or lastly, it will cost you 295 euro. So thankfully, at least for now, the prices in Australia have been dialed back to be able to reach our market and make it more accessible. But with that, you also need less sprays because it lasts long, projects really well, so all in all, you're getting better value even though it's a slightly higher price point, seeing as you don't have to use as much. It seems the public were quite divided when it first came out, but recently I've seen a lot of positivity about it. Creed, however, don't seem to be marketing it as much though. Sadly, the last time they posted it was way back in 2019, and to find it on their website you have to go to the end of page 2. So it seems Creed may be stepping away from Viking and focusing on others such as Silver Mountain Water, Aventus as usual, and Green Irish Tweed and other bestsellers. I would hate to think that Creed would take that negative criticism back in the day and try and be more mass appealing with their future releases, as I think a lot of people are actually coming around to it now. They've always been a house of innovation and I look forward to seeing what they do next. Overall, the projection longevity is about an 8 out of 10 for me. It leaves a strong trail behind me. It's probably one of the most strongest Creeds other than Royal Oud, and I get well above 10 hours as far as longevity goes. I find it quite wearable all year round. That cool mint opening is great for summer, and just sweeter, woodier side as it dries down is great for winter. So for versatility, I give it an 8 out of 10, and to be honest, I'm hooked on the scent. I haven't really smelt a lot like it, so I have to give that a 9 out of 10. But I'd love to see what you think about the fragrance, as it has been quite a divisive one in the perfume community. I don't know if Creed are going to be keeping this one around for the long run, as it has kind of faded away from their marketing, as less popular ones like Tabarin, Bois de Portugal, or even Aromatic seem to get a lot more publicity. But anyway, that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching.